Imagine finding a tiny coin in your junk drawer that could pay off your mortgage, or spotting one in an old piggy bank that's worth more than a brand new Corvette. Sounds like a dream, right? But it's not. Some of the rarest state quarters and 1 penny coins, yes, literal pocket change, have sold for prices that will leave you absolutely stunned. Today, we're diving deep into the top 5 US coins hiding in plain sight. The ones that could secretly be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So grab your magnifying glass, because these are the coins every American over 50 needs to check for right now. If you're even half as curious as I was when I first discovered these, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button, because this kind of treasure is real, and it's closer than you think. 2/4, bad condition, surface scratches, dull luster, maybe even some grime or staining. You wouldn't give it a second glance, but buried beneath that rough exterior could be one of the most bizarre and valuable mistakes ever struck by the US Mint. One of these very coins, yes, a dirty, circulated 2022 quarter sold for a staggering $651,000. Let me explain why. In 2022, the US Mint launched the American Women Quarters program, and this coin features none other than Wilma Mankiller, the first female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. A historic design, honoring a trailblazer, but also the center of a mystery that stunned collectors across the country. One particular batch of 2022 Wilma Mankiller quarters, produced in Philadelphia, somehow ended up missing an entire layer of metal. That's right, the outer copper nickel layer was stripped away during production, exposing the raw, reddish copper core underneath. But this wasn't just a clad layer error, this was something far worse. Some of these error coins were also struck off-center, with the design shifted dramatically. Wilma's face would appear skewed to one side, the word "Liberty" half missing, and in a few extreme cases, the entire design was cut in half by a blank, empty space, as if the coin was only halfway born. That combination, missing clad layer plus off-center strike, is so rare. Only a handful have been discovered, and in one shocking auction, a collector's heavily circulated, slightly bent example sold for over $651,000. Think about that. A modern coin from 2022, badly worn, sold for over $500,000. And here's what's truly wild. Even less severe versions of this error, with just the off-center strike or just the missing clad layer, have sold for $8,000 to $30,000, depending on how dramatic the flaw appears. So how do you spot one? First, check the color. If your 2022 Wilma Mankiller quarter has a reddish or pinkish tone, almost like a penny, it might be missing the nickel layer. Second, inspect the strike. Are parts of the design cut off, shifted, or curved unnaturally? That's a major red flag. Even in bad condition, these coins are gold mines. Because collectors aren't paying for shine, they're paying for error and rarity. And get this, the Mint never officially acknowledged this mistake. No explanation, no recall. These coins simply slipped through the cracks, and now they've become modern legends. So if you've got a 2022 quarter sitting in your drawer, beat up and forgotten, take a closer look. What seems worthless could be worth $650,000 or more. Just imagine a quarter that could pay off your mortgage, buy a new car, and still leave enough for retirement. Incredible, isn't it? And that wraps up our list: 6 state quarters, each with shocking value, unbelievable errors, and stories that keep collectors hunting to this day. Now, it's your turn. Start checking your change, because these coins are out there, waiting to be found. And if you enjoyed this journey into rare coin riches, don't forget subscribe now for the next set of unbelievable discoveries. You never know which coin could change your life. 1943. The US Mint made pennies out of zinc-coated steel instead. These coins had a bright, silvery appearance, at least when they were brand new. But over time, many of them began to oxidize, especially if they weren't carefully stored. That's what gives some of these coins that haunting, blackened shade. And here's where it gets crazy. Most people think those black coins are just old, worn-out junk. But the truth is, some of these 1943 steel cents, especially the ones minted in Denver, like this 19 for 3D, are worth a small fortune when they have the right mix of rarity and error. And this one has something really special going on. Collectors have been paying tens of thousands of dollars for coins that look just like this. Coins with unusual toning, strange coloration, and especially ones that still show clear details underneath that black surface. Now, take a closer look. On this coin, even though the surface has that dark tone, the wheat stalks on the reverse are still sharp. And if you can see the D mint mark under the date, that's a very good sign. But here's where things get wild. If this coin also has even a minor die break, double die, or misstrike, the value can skyrocket. One known 194 3D steel penny, with a striking error and unusual toning, was sold for over $180,000 in a private auction. And that wasn't even in perfect condition. In circulated condition, a black-toned 194 3D like this might still sell for $1,500 to $5,000 depending on how much detail is visible and whether it still has eye appeal to collectors. In uncirculated condition, with full mint luster under that black surface, you could be looking at $15,000 to $45,000 or more, especially if certified by a grading service like PCGs or NGC. But here's the kicker. If this coin turns out to be one of the extremely rare off-metal errors where a steel penny was struck on a leftover copper planchet by mistake, the value explodes. We're talking $300,000 to $1.7 million in recent private sales. Yes, million. That's not a typo. So the next time you see a dark-colored 194 3D penny that looks ruined, stop. Look closer. That black shade might not be damage. It might be your retirement plan. And that's just the beginning. Next up, this one might look like junk, but don't be fooled. It's a 194 3D 1999. It was the launch of the U.S. State Quarters program, a bold, new chapter in American coinage. People were collecting them straight out of their change, excited by the idea of one coin for every state. But few knew that in the very first year, a catastrophic minting blunder would produce one of the most valuable state quarters ever made. This is the Delaware quarter circulated, yes. But don't let that fool you, because one version of this coin, bearing one of the worst minting errors ever caught to late, sold for a shocking $411,000. Let me explain. The Delaware State Quarter, released in January 1999, featured Caesar Rodney on horseback, a tribute to his famous ride for American independence. But when the mint started pressing the very first batches of these coins, something disastrous happened. A small handful, and I mean just a few dozen ever confirmed, were struck on experimental planchets. These were blanks not intended for regular quarters. Instead, they were part of a top-secret trial run using a 99.9% pure nickel planchet designed for a different denomination altogether. The coins that came out? Heavier, off-colored, slightly oversized. And yet, they made it through the mint, into bags, into boxes, and into everyday circulation. For years, nobody noticed. People spent them without a second thought. But when collectors finally uncovered the truth, the numismatic world went absolutely ballistic. The experimental planchet Delaware quarter quickly became the stuff of legend. Only a few were confirmed, most in circulated condition, and one example worn, clearly passed through many hands, shattered records at auction with a sale price of $411,250. That's right over $400,000 for a circulated quarter. Even more mind-blowing, many of these are still unaccounted for. Experts believe several are still out there, tucked inside jars, drawers, or maybe even your own collection. So how do you spot one? First, check the weight. If your Delaware quarter feels heavier than a normal one, it might be worth testing. Second, look at the color. These experimental planchets had a dull gray, almost pewter-like finish, compared to the usual shiny copper nickel look. And finally, if the edges appear wider or less defined, or the surface feels unusually smooth, that could be a sign you've got the real deal. Even if yours isn't the rare experimental strike, there's another twist. The 1999 Delaware quarter is notorious for a die crack error raised jagged line that runs across Caesar Rodney or even splits the horse in two. These dramatic cracks can be worth $2,000 to $12,000 depending on severity, even in circulated shape. So, yes, that rough-looking 1999 quarter you've had sitting in a showbox for 2 decades? It could very well be one of the most valuable coins of your lifetime. Think about it. A coin you could have picked up and changed from a soda machine in 1999 could now buy you a house. And guess what? The next coin on this list, it comes from a state known for gold rushes. And this next quarter has a hidden detail that pushed its auction value to over $500,000. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button right now, because coin number 5 is going to blow your mind. Next up, a coin that most people would overlook in a heartbreaking wheat penny with no mint mark. And that little detail changes everything. Now remember, in 1943, pennies weren't made of copper, they were made of steel, coated with zinc, because copper was needed for World War II ammunition. Over 1 billion of these were struck, and most came out of Philadelphia, which didn't put a mint mark on its coins. So what makes this rough-looking 1943 penny so special? Well, some of them weren't made out of steel at all. Let that sink in. A few incredibly rare 1943 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover copper planchets, bronze blanks from 1942 that were never supposed to be used again. They somehow slipped through, got struck, and entered circulation unnoticed. Today, those mistakes are some of the most valuable coins in US history. One of them, a 1943 copper penny with no mint mark, was discovered by a 14-year-old kid in the 1950s. He sold it for $40,000. In 2019, a nearly identical one sold at auction for $204,000. And get this, another one, verified authentic, in rough shape, sold for over $372,000. Yes, nearly 400 grand, for a penny that looked like it had been through the washing machine. Now, imagine holding a coin that looks just like this in your hand. It's discolored. The surface is beat up. The wheat stalks on the back are worn down. Most people would call it garbage. But if it's copper instead of steel, if it's not magnetic when it should be, that could be the single most important penny you've ever touched. Even more mind-blowing, some 1943 copper pennies were struck slightly off-center, or with weak dies that caused faint lettering. That's a double jackpot. Rare metal and rare strike. These error coins, they're the holy grail for collectors, and most of them were found in pocket change, or tossed in a jar for decades, before someone finally recognized what they had. Here's a quick test you can do right now. Grab a small magnet and hover it over your 1943 penny. If it sticks, it's steel, and probably worth between $10 to $60 in worn condition, maybe more if there's a small error. But if it doesn't stick, your heart might skip a beat, because that means it's not steel. It might be copper, and that means your dirty, worn-out little coin could be worth more than a Lamborghini, even in poor condition. These copper 1943 cents have sold for 6 figures. Why? Because there are so few of them, and every collector in the world wants one. So never overlook the ugly coins. Sometimes the rarest treasures don't shine. Sometimes they're hidden under decades of wear, waiting for someone smart enough to take a second look. And the next coin might just be the most shocking one yet. And finally, don't blink, because this last one could be the most shocking of them all. We've got another 1943 Lincoln wheat penny in bad coins ever released by the US Mint. It's the year 2005. The Wisconsin State Quarter. Circulated condition. Nothing fancy on the surface. It's been in people's pockets, vending machines, probably even sat at the bottom of a laundry basket. But this humble little coin may just hold one of the most explosive secrets in modern US coin history. I hope you're sitting down, because one version of this coin, found in spare change, sold for a jaw-dropping $372,000. Now how and why would a circulated 2005 quarter be worth more than a Lamborghini? Let's peel back the layers. The Wisconsin Quarter was released as part of the State Quarters program, showing a cow, a wheel of cheese, and a tall, proud ear of corn. At first glance, just another charming design. But somewhere in the production line, something strange happened. someone, or something at the Denver Mint made a mysterious change to the design. That ear of corn? In a small number of coins, it has an extra leaf. And not just any leaf, a sharp, curved leaf sticking out at a strange angle low and to the left. Collectors call it the extra leaf low and extra leaf high variety, and the debate still rages to this day. Was it a minting mistake, or a rogue engraver's secret signature? Either way, the coins made it out into the world, and once the numismatic community caught wind of it, the frenzy began. Circulated Wisconsin quarters with that extra leaf began surfacing in pocket change. People were pulling out magnifying glasses, searching through jars of coins, hoping to strike gold. And when the first authenticated extra leaf high quarter hit the auction block, it stunned everyone with a final bid of over $372,000. Yes, in circulated condition. Even now, over a decade later, circulated versions with minor wear still sell for $5,000 to $15,000, and uncirculated examples, if verified and clean, can soar well beyond $100,000. Now here's where it gets interesting. These errors are only found on coins minted in Denver. Look for that little D mint mark. And the extra leaf? It's not obvious. You have to look at the left side of the corn stalk right near the bottom. If you see a tiny, out-of-place leaf shooting out at an angle, congratulations! You just found one of the rarest quarters in circulation today. And yes, even if it's scratched, dull, or slightly worn, collectors still want it. Because this isn't about shine, it's about the mystery. Was it sabotage? Was it intentional? Or just a freak accident of history? Whatever the answer, it made ordinary people into legends. So take a closer look at that beat-up 2005 quarter in your glove box. That coin might just be hiding a secret worth 6 figures. And guess what? We've only scratched the surface. The next coin? It's older, rarer, and one of the most sought-after mint errors ever recorded. It slipped through the cracks, and now it's worth over $410,000. Before we reveal that beauty, take 2 seconds to hit subscribe, because trust me, this ride's only getting crazier. Moving on, we arrive at one of the most controversial and downright bizarre coins ever released by the U.S. Mint. It's the year 2005. The Wisconsin State Quarter. Circulated condition. Nothing fancy on the condition. It's rough. It's worn down. The date's barely visible. There's corrosion. Maybe even a little green spotting around the edges. Most people wouldn't give this coin a second look, but they should. Because this ordinary-looking penny might just be worth over $1 million. Let's talk about why. You already know that in 1943, the U.S. Mint produced steel pennies, a temporary change to save copper for wartime ammunition. But what very few people know is that errors weren't limited to copper planchets. Some of the most valuable 1943 coins were struck on completely wrong planchets, blanks meant for foreign coins, like silver coins from other countries, or even U.S. dimes and nickels. Yes, that actually happened. The Mint was producing coins for other nations during the war. And sometimes, just sometimes, the wrong metal slipped into the wrong machine. A 1943 penny struck on a silver dime blank. That's a 6-figure mistake. One known specimen sold for $216,000, and it wasn't even in good condition. But it gets even crazier. One 1943 penny was struck on a bronze planchet from the Philippines, which the U.S. Mint was helping to produce at the time. Only a few of these are known to exist. And when one surfaced in bad condition, dull, scratched, almost forgotten, it still sold for a jaw-dropping $648,750 at auction. That's the power of mint-era rarity. And that means this rough old 1943 penny in your hand, sitting at the bottom of an old coffee can, could be more than a curiosity. It could be retirement money. Look for signs that the coin was struck on the wrong planchet. Is it thinner than usual? Lighter? Maybe it has a strange ringing sound when dropped on a table. Or the color just feels off. All of those are red flags. And red flags collectors love. And here's something wild. Some 1943 pennies have also been discovered with ray-punched mint marks, where the D or S was accidentally struck twice in slightly different positions. Even in terrible condition, these can be worth $5,000 to $25,000, depending on severity. Another insane error? The 1943 Cud error, where a chunk of the die breaks off and leaves a big raised blob on the surface of the coin. One of these, in poor condition, sold for over $18,000.so. What are we looking at here? A scratched up, rusted, no mint mark 1943 penny. Maybe, or maybe it's a historic mistake. A 1 in a million error that slipped through the chaos of a wartime mint and ended up right in front of you. Think about that for a second. A tiny accident, made over 80 years ago, still sitting quietly in circulation, forgotten, overlooked, and now may be found. This is why coin collectors are obsessed with 1943. Not because they're rare in number, but because the rare ones hide in plain sight. So before you toss that ugly little coin aside, ask yourself one question. What if this is the one? First up, don't blink, because this one's going to hit you right between the eyes. It's a 2000 state quarter worn, scratched, clearly seen better days. Most people would toss it in a change jar without a second thought. But what if I told you, this exact year and design in bad condition has sold for tens of thousands, and in rare cases, versions of it have crossed the $325,000 mark? Sound crazy? Let's break it down. The year 2000 was a wild time for the US Mint. Technology was changing. The state quarter program was in full swing, and quality control, well, let's just say it wasn't perfect. One of the biggest errors to ever escape a mint facility happened during this year, and it happened in the state of South Carolina. Now, stay with me, because this isn't just a minting mistake. It's a full-blown collectible catastrophe. Some of the South Carolina quarters minted in Philadelphia were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they weren't printed on quarter blanks at all. Instead, some were struck on 5-cent nickel planchets, creating a strange, lightweight, off-color quarter that left even seasoned collectors doing double takes. And here's the kicker. One of those rare 2000 South Carolina quarters struck on a nickel planchet in worn condition, sold at auction for a staggering $325,000. Yes, you heard that right, and it wasn't even uncirculated. This is what collectors call a wrong planchet error, and the year 2000 is infamous for it. In bad condition like the one you're looking at, if it carries the same error, it could still bring in $5,000 to $15,000. And if it's confirmed with a grading service and carries the full weight of rarity, you're talking 6 figures. Easily. Even with all that well, let's talk details. The South Carolina quarter features the Carolina wren, the state tree, and the outline of the state. But when struck on a nickel planchet, the design looks tight, slightly off-centered, and the edges often have no reading, meaning it's smooth like a nickel, not grooved like a quarter. If your 2000 quarter feels lighter, looks off-colored, or the edge is smooth, do not spend it. You could be holding one of the rarest state quarters ever made. Even in bad condition, collectors don't care. It's the error that makes it golden. And if you're lucky enough to find one uncirculated, confirmed with that error set, your asking price at a cool $300,000 and up, and watch the offers roll in. So next time you glance at a grimy old quarter from 2000, don't shrug it off. That dirt-covered coin might just pay for your grandkids' college tuition and then some. Next up, you won't believe what happened in Wisconsin in 2004. This next quarter, one tiny leaf made it one of the most valuable circulating coins in modern history. But before we go there, smash that subscribe button. You do not want to miss what's coming. Moving on, we arrive at one of the most controversial and downright bizarre Lincoln wheat penny, and yeah, it's in bad condition. Scratches, worn edges, maybe even some rust or discoloration. At first glance, most people would toss it aside without a second thought. But what if I told you, even in this rough shape, this coin could still be worth thousands? Let's break it down. In 1943, the US Mint made a big change because copper was needed for the war. They switched to steel pennies coated in zinc. These coins were supposed to be temporary, and while over 1 billion were struck, most didn't survive the decades very well. The steel core made them very prone to rust, especially if exposed to moisture. That's why so many 1943 steel pennies, like this one, look rough today. But here's the twist. Even in bad condition, a 1943 penny could be very valuable if it has something collectors crave, like a rare error, or if it's struck on the wrong metal. And here's where things get seriously exciting. One known error for the 1943D is when it was accidentally struck on a bronze planchet, the copper alloy used in 1942. These mistakes happened when a leftover blank got stuck in the minting machine. Guess how much one of those sold for? In poor condition, barely readable, a 1943D bronze penny still sold for $112.50. Let that sink in. Now, back to our beat-up coin here. It may not be winning any beauty contests, but if it has even a whisper of a wrong metal error, or if it's magnetic when it shouldn't be, or not magnetic when it should be, it could be hiding a serious payday. Even a simple double die error, where the letters or date appear slightly doubled, can make a destroyed-looking coin shoot up to $8,000 to $15,000, just for the error alone. And collectors love these underdog coins. Why? Because it feels like discovering treasure in the trash. It's exciting, it's rare, and it's real history, right in your hand. Even in average circulated condition, without any error, a 1943D still sells for $20 to $75, but with even minor rarity or error, that number can leap into the thousands. And here's a crazy detail most people miss. Some of these bad condition 1943Ds were actually part of emergency wartime minting batches, made in a rush, sometimes with misaligned dies or off-center strikes. Collectors hunt for these, so if your 1943D penny looks bad, don't toss it, run a magnet over it, look closely under a light, check the edges, the date, and that tiny D mint mark below the year. If anything looks strange, this might be the kind of bad coin that's actually really, really good. 2 coins down, and we're just heating up. If you're enjoying this hunt for hidden treasure, hit that subscribe button, it helps us keep bringing you the stories most people never hear, because the next coin might just blow your mind. Moving on, and this one's a real sleeper. At first glance, it looks like just another old, beat-up penny, scratched, discolored, maybe even a little rusty. But look closer, this is a 1943 link surface. It's been in people's pockets, vending machines, probably even sat at the bottom of a laundry basket. But this humble little coin may just hold one of the most explosive secrets in modern US coin history. I hope you're sitting down, because one version of this coin, found in spare change, sold for a jaw-dropping $372,000. Now how and why would a circulated 2005 quarter be worth more than a Lamborghini? Let's peel back the layers. The Wisconsin quarter was released as part of the state quarters program, showing a cow, a wheel of cheese, and a tall, proud ear of corn. At first glance, just another charming design. But somewhere in the production line, something strange happened. Someone or something at the Denver Mint made a mysterious change to the design. That ear of corn? In a small number of coins, it has an extra leaf. And not just any leaf, a sharp, curved leaf sticking out at a strange angle low and to the left. Collectors call it the extra leaf low and extra leaf high variety, and the debate still rages to this day. Was it a minting mistake, or a rogue engraver's secret signature? Either way, the coins made it out into the world, and once the numismatic community caught wind of it, the frenzy began. Circulated Wisconsin quarters with that extra leaf began surfacing in pocket change. People were pulling out magnifying glasses, searching through jars of coins, hoping to strike gold. And when the first authenticated extra leaf high quarter hit the auction block, it stunned everyone with a final bid of over $372,000. Yes, in circulated condition. Even now, over a decade later, circulated versions with minor wear still sell for $5,000 to $15,000, and uncirculated examples, if verified and clean, can soar well beyond $100,000. Now here's where it gets interesting. These errors are only found on coins minted in Denver. Look for that little D mint mark. And the extra leaf? It's not obvious. You have to look at the left side of the corn stalk right near the bottom. If you see a tiny, out-of-place leaf shooting out at an angle, congratulations! You just found one of the rarest quarters in circulation today. And yes, even if it's scratched, dull, or slightly worn, collectors still want it. Because this isn't about shine, it's about the mystery. Was it sabotage? Was it intentional? Or just a freak accident of history? Whatever the answer, it made ordinary people into legends. So take a closer look at that beat-up 2005 quarter in your glove box. That coin might just be hiding a secret worth 6 figures. And guess what? We've only scratched the surface. The next coin? It's older, rarer, and one of the most sought-after mint errors ever recorded. It slipped through the cracks, and now it's worth over 41000. Before we reveal that beauty, take 2 seconds to hit subscribe, because trust me, this ride's only getting crazier. Now, we rewind the clock to where it all began. It's 2001, a worn-down, circulated Kentucky state quarter. You've probably seen hundreds of these. The old barn, the horse, the split rail fence, a simple, classic design. But what if I told you this exact quarter, even in rough condition, could be worth over 537,000? No joke. This is one of the most unbelievable error coins ever discovered. And it all comes down to a minting mistake so strange. Most collectors didn't believe it was real at first. Let me tell you the story. The Kentucky quarter was the last release of 2001, meant to honor the Bluegrass State's iconic horse farms and rural heritage. But inside one particular Denver mint machine, something went horribly wrong. In a handful of coins, and we're talking fewer than 10 known examples, the obverse, that's the George Washington side, was struck using a rotated die, twisted nearly 160 degrees off center. What does that mean? Imagine flipping a coin to see George Washington's head, and instead, he's upside down. Not sideways, not tilted, fully inverted with the reverse side perfectly upright. Collectors call this a mad die rotation, and it's one of the rarest and most dramatic minting errors in U.S. coinage. And here's where it gets crazy. One of these 2001 Kentucky quarters, with the full rotation error and in circulated condition, recently shocked the numismatic world by pulling in a final auction price of 537,800. Yes, a coin with wear, scratches, pocket marks sold for over $500,000. Why? Because this isn't just a misaligned strike. This is the kind of error that usually gets caught in quality control and almost never escapes into public hands. But this one did, and today, it's considered one of the top 5 rarest state quarters ever minted. Even minor versions of the rotation 90 degrees, 120 degrees have sold for $5,000 to $25,000 depending on condition. And in circulated condition, collectors still pay top dollar, because these coins are like lightning in a bottle. So here's what to do. Grab a 2001 Kentucky quarter, hold it flat between your fingers, and flip it vertically. If the reverse side, the barn and horse, doesn't line up the way it should, you might be holding something extremely rare. And there's another twist. Some of these rotated coins also have what's called a clash die, where the design from one side is accidentally pressed into the other. That adds another layer of value. With some dual error, Kentucky quarters appraised at 300,000 plus, even in mid-grade circulated form. Just imagine a coin you might use to buy a coffee could instead buy you a lakefront cabin. These mistakes aren't just rare, they're historic. So the next time you pull out a Kentucky quarter, don't just glance at it. Flip it, rotate it, examine it, because one slight twist might just flip your fortune too. And now, the final coin on our list. It's not just rare, it's legendary, a minting mystery that escapes the vaults of a western state known for gold. And this coin has sold for more than $600,000. Before we reveal coin number 6, smash that subscribe button right now. You've come this far, and here we are, the final coin on our list, a 2022